the airport right now.
I had 7, but a lot more people, 13.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the San Francisco Community Roundtable meeting on October 1st, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Tonight's meeting will have hybrid access with members attending in person and the public welcome to attend in person or remotely. For members of the public who wish to speak to the membership, please fill out a speaker's card if you're here. Hi, Doug. If you're here in person. And for those attending remotely, use the raise hand feature on Zoom. Diane, would you please proceed with roll call and confirm if we have a quorum?
Thank you, Chair. City and County of San Francisco Board of Supervisors, absent. City and County of San Francisco Mayor's Office. City and County of San Francisco Airport Commission. San Mateo Board of Supervisors, absent. CCAG Airport Land Use Commission. Absent. Town of Atherton. Absent. City of Belmont. City of Brisbane.
Terry O'Connell, present.
City of Burlingame.
Desiree Thayer, alternate for Andrea Papajohn.
Town of Colma. Absent. City of Daly City. City of East Palo Alto. Absent. City of Foster City.
Susie Niederhofer, present.
City of Half Moon Bay.
Patrick Johnson, present.
Town of Hillsborough.
Christine Krolik, present.
City of Menlo Park. Absent. City of Pacifica.
Christy Bowles, present.
City of Millbrae.
Steve Rinaldi, present.
Town of Portola Valley.
Rebecca Flynn, present.
City of Redwood City.
Kaya Aiken, present.
Oh, there you go. City of San Bruno. Absent. City of San Carlos. Excuse me. Absent. City of San Mateo. Absent. City of South San Francisco.
Martin Nagals here.
Town of Woodside.
All gold, present.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Thank you, Diane. And thank you, everyone, for coming out this evening. And a special thanks to the technical working group, Paul from Woodside, and Stephen from Millbrae, and Terry, of course, who chairs it from Brisbane. We met earlier, and I really appreciate your time and the time of the staff as well. So now we have public comment on items not on the agenda. So please, if there are any members of the public who wish to comment, keep your comments to 2 minutes. And note, while the roundtable members can't discuss or act on these items tonight, your input is always valued. Are there any members of the public, either in person or on Zoom, who wish to comment at this time on any item not on the agenda?
Yes, Chair. We have 2 raised hands on Zoom. Well, now 3. First with Yvette Mitchell or Michael. Please go ahead.
Here. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi there. Hi, I'm a resident of Portola Valley. I'm technically in Ladera, so that would make me San Mateo County. You can't hear
Are we
me?
able to turn up her volume?
You can't hear me, guys?
Oh, it's better now, Yvette.
Okay, I'll speak as loudly as I can. Sorry, maybe my earphones are a little failing. Hi there. I am a resident of Portola Valley. I am technically in Ladera, but I border the Westridge area. So arguably, I'm part of San Mateo County. But I'm echoing some concerns that my neighbors and I have had about airline noise. And when I first moved to the neighborhood about 7 years ago, it was, a pretty active discussion, and we had Congress people involved, and there was some activity around that. And then COVID hit, and then it went pretty quiet. And it seemed like the noise had calmed, but over the last few months, it's just on fire. It seems worse than it ever was. If you sit on any particular evening and try to track it to any sort of wind pattern or weather pattern, of course, we're not in aviation, we don't know. Can't track it to anything, but literally every minute there is a plane going, past my house. And I know that our path is one called Pirate, And I spoke with somebody today who told me that Pirate only has 30 flights that cross it every day. I can tell you with absolute certainty there are more than 30 flights going over this path each day. And I know that it has to do with vectors. And I know vectors have several components to them, but I would think and I would hope that one of them is qualitative and not just quantitative. What can you guys tell us about how these vectors have changed and why they've just been, there's just been so much traffic over our neighborhood? Trying to understand that and see if we can do something about it.
Okay, thank you, Yvette. We can't answer now because it's not an agendized item, but we certainly will take a note of that, and we can address it either directly with you or at our next meeting. And who do we have?
Thank you. Now we have Ms. Schneider. Ms. Schneider, please go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, Roundtable. Ann Schneider, living in Millbrae. Today, especially between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m., it was constant airplanes using runway 19 and flying over near me so that I get all the backblast. I've heard from Bert, and thank you, Bert, for his comments, that apparently Oakland and San Jose were doing something, therefore San Francisco had to do something. But all of us, including a large number of people on Nextdoor, wondered why we were being barraged with no word at all. Last week, I'm recovering from a broken arm and wrist, so I can't do much but sit around. Airplanes were clearly missed flight go-arounds right over my house, right over Millbrae Central Park, right over several schools, and we get no notice at all. What would it take for SFO to have to send out alerts for these more than unusual circumstances? Any kind of missed arrival, any kind of flight that gets diverted over Millbrae or the other cities, but right now I'm speaking for Millbrae. Anytime we have to have reverse flow, I'm looking at the trees and there was no wind. And I heard that, there was 18-mile-an-hour wind somewhere. Well, it certainly wasn't here at Millbrae or at SFO that was built on Millbrae land. There has to be better communication on that. And especially when I see the go-arounds, I wonder what's happened. Is it a problem with the plane? Is a jet engine going to fall on a house here in Millbrae? We get no notice at all. We simply have to put up with it. And then I want to thank the technical working group. However, as was stated at the end, the technical working group in the old days was much more give and take. I was allowed to speak at the very last minute. There was no communication or no discussion of comments. If ground-based noise has moved to technical working group, there has to be give and take. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the final speaker is Mr. Remy Tan. Mr. Tan?
Hello, Remy Tan, resident of Pacifica. Same comment as last month. We keep getting the late night flights from 11 a.m., 11 p.m. all the way through the night, flying over our city, disturbing our sleep, and it does affect Daly City, South City as well, and we're hoping that the Roundtable can have some influence over SFO and have some of these flights, done during the daytime, where it's less of a disturbance, and better yet, if they can, as many of them as possible, making the right turn over the bay after they take off from runway 28 left or right, instead of over our houses and neighborhoods in the middle of the night. I do understand from past meetings that if the plane is fully loaded, that they have issues making that turn. So in that case, those flights should be rescheduled to be earlier in the day, or rescheduled out of Oakland Airport, which has a runway that both landing and takeoff is over water. So hopefully we can coordinate with Oakland Airport, and in the future, use that long runway that's over the bay for the late night flights, and then design a connection between both airports through the Bay. I believe there's supposed to be a second Bay connection that's being discussed with BART, and doing a coordination with all the agencies and resources would be probably the best, and would be less expensive than building out the additional runway capacity that SFO needs. Currently the runways are too close together, and we've got a lot of flight delays.
Thank you, we are at time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And there are no other public speakers.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, members of the public. All of those comments we're keeping track of those, and we will get back to you when we can, or else report out at the next meeting. Next, we'll move to set the agenda and approve the consent items. I'm happy that we have the airport director with us tonight. Thank you, Mike. So I'm going to pull item number 7 so that you can give that in person. And before I ask for any changes to the consent items, there's just a couple minor changes to the minutes and the roundtable budget prior to adoption. So regarding the minutes, I'd like to note corrections on the roll call to state that the City and County of San Francisco Board of Supervisor representative was absent from the meeting, and to note that Supervisor Spear was responsible for making the motion on item 3, not member Niederhofer as listed. And it will also start to include full names of members who attend the meeting in the minutes moving forward. And regarding the budget, we just want to note an error in the last line of the memo that should state that the total expenses for fiscal year 25-26 budget are estimated to be $260,740, which will leave a trust fund balance of $463,869. The rest of the consent agenda consists of SFO Airport Director's Report for July and August, and the FAA IFP Information Gateway Summary Reports from August and September. Are there any members who would like to pull an item from the consent calendar for separate discussion?
Madam Chair, I actually wanted to pull the budget item number 6.
Oh, okay.
I had some
All right,
questions
so we'll
about it.
pull the budget. All right, and that is item 6?
Yes.
I'm not going to pull anything, but I have another corrections in the minutes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, use the microphone, please.
Go ahead and do that now. So just on page 6, kind of in the top third, the paragraph that's member Bowles. So the other item that I discussed, and I did go back and watch the video, was asking about the follow-up with the FAA about the expansion of the night hush program. And then, the minutes continue with the FAA responding that they wanted to work with us, but it was about that. And so I just want to make sure that doesn't get lost, because that was something that we discussed like July of last year, that the FAA was hoping to come in the fall, and then things got delayed. And I'm just afraid that's going to get lost. And that, as Remy Tan mentioned, but, that flight path over the gap really affects Daly City, San Bruno, and Pacifica, and it's the late night flights that are really causing a lot of the problems. So anything that we can do to expand that would be super helpful. So I just want to make sure it doesn't get lost.
So Christine, do you want to add something to the minutes before we approve them?
Yes. So, if you want me to say it exactly, I didn't go back and look at the minutes that carefully, but just I request that we follow up with the FAA about the night hush program, and actually also the noise/health study that we had commented on. So that was 2 things.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other, while we're on the minutes, any other additions or changes to the minutes? So let's look for a motion to approve item 5, which is the minutes, and item 8, which is the HMMH FAA. That's a lot of letters. IFP Information Gateway. Is there a motion to approve items 5 and 8 on the consent agenda?
I move that we approve item 5 with the revisions and
As amended.
as amended, and item 8.
Thank you. So it was the amendments that I read in and the amendments that Member Bowles put in. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, great, thank you. I'm going to turn things over to Mike, our airport director, for his report.
Thank you, Chair Krolik. Good evening, everyone. Mike Nikornkat, SFO Airport Director. We wrapped up a very busy summer travel season with the demand that we saw at SFO. Over 7.5 million departing passengers through our security checkpoints. That represents a 3.8 increase over summer of 2024, and we are 96% of pre-pandemic or summer 2019 levels. And usually we define the summer period as June, July, and August, wrapping up with Labor Day holiday weekend travel. Flight operations, on the other hand, were 86% of pre-pandemic levels, so that shows a fair amount of upgauging by the airlines at SFO. In other areas, you might have heard on the news that we approved a pilot program for Waymo at SFO. This represents 3 phases of testing. Essentially, they're going to work with us, meet with us weekly to go through phases of testing that includes autonomous operations with a safety driver at the wheel, autonomous operations with no safety driver, and then autonomous operations with customers. And this is basically the next phase after they successfully completed their mapping, which we also issued a permit for at SFO. There's no specific timelines for each completion of each phase, but as I said earlier, we'll meet weekly with them to review the progress and milestones achieved at each phase of testing. Passenger pickup and drop-offs will occur at the Kiss and Fly area at our rental car center, which has a direct connection to the air train into SFO. Also, today is the first day of the federal government shutdown. We're monitoring the situation very closely. As with previous shutdowns, though, federal workers at SFO are considered essential, and that includes the FAA, Customs and Border Protection, CDC, or Center for Disease Control, and the FBI staff, who will continue to be on site and working at SFO. Security screeners, however, are not TSA employees because they're contracted through a vendor, Covenant Aviation, and they will continue to come to work and continue to be paid during the shutdown. And that is all I have for the airport report, and I'd like to turn it over to Bert for his report out.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So we'll go ahead and get this into our presentation mode for a share. That is not me with a howling mic. I already have the screen off. I did, after seeing it on the screens last time and sitting in Mike's position, realize that the presentations that I've been giving with the tables are miserable to read. So I thought I'd present it this way and see if a little bit easier for folks to read on the monitors. What we're looking at here is our, just see the little cursor tab there, but on the design, we had a decrease in 3 down to 19. Out for bid, we're at 22. The currently in construction dropped down by 2, and then total in the works, we have 58. With the total completed to date increasing by 2 to 91. Here's the pie graphs by city. We increased the text size on that for a little bit better readability, and I'm hoping we're getting through there. I'll go through the others very quickly. We had no changes. You'll notice on the previous bar graph, we had the plus and minus signs. That indicates what the changes were. If we have no red numbers, there is no change. Second Chance Initiative, we're doing as expected with the South City treatment in progress and the SCI 106 completed properties, South San Francisco, Daly City, Millbrae, San Bruno. Expanded eligibility, no changes here. And the homeowner satisfaction was staying fairly well as well, which I was happy to see. Our EEI for that, the pie graphs by city, we have those listed here. And don't have anything further here unless I have any questions through the chair.
Thank you, Director Nicornet. And Bert, are there any questions from anyone on the round table on either presentation? And then we need to go back. Oh, sorry, Paul, yes.
Just one brief question for Mike. Thanks for the presentation. Can you update us on the Oakland Airport naming controversy, where that stands?
Yes, I can provide a brief update. As you may have read in the news, the Oakland International Airport, well, Oakland Airport has went through a second round of renaming with their board, which was approved, calling themselves Oakland San Francisco Bay Airport, and that was approved by their board, and we are still going through the legal process on the first renaming of their airport.
Any other questions from the round table? All right. We need to go back. First of all, I'll ask, are there any questions from the public on either presentation?
There are no current public comments at this time.
Okay. And my bad, we approved 2 items from the consent calendar, and I neglected to ask if there was public comment on them. Is there public comment on either one of those items?
And we actually do need a vote for the budget item, which I think might have been pulled, and we had questions by Member Nichols.
Okay, so
we
it's
do have one public member that would like to comment. I just have their hands raised now. Mr. Remington, please go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Tan.
Hello, I just got a quick question regarding this presentation. I'm wondering if there's, can you hear me now okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello. Yes, just had a quick question on Bert's presentation. Was wondering, considering the noise issues that we have in Pacifica, if there's possibility of getting more houses on the mitigation and expand that program, to cover more places in Pacifica, as well as Daly City, San Bruno, South City, that are outside. Because it looks, looking at the current chart that's on the agenda, there's a lot of high decibel numbers in these cities.
Thank you. Bert, is Pacifica in the footprint?
No, we're not.
It is currently not in the NEM.
All right, it's currently not in the footprint. Thank you. All right, we're going to go back to the budget item number 6, because I have problems with continuity. We're a little out of order. I was very excited to get to the director's report. So we will go back to the budget. And Vanessa, I leave that to you to present.
Sure. I think we just had a question by Member.
Yeah, I pulled the item. I had a question about the budget, actually. Maybe go to Bert. So when I read the budget, it seems like a large majority of the revenues is dependent on SFO. And so when I saw the 24-25 budget, it said that we didn't get the 220,000 from SFO, and there was reasons behind that. And so typically government agencies, they count the revenue for the year when they attribute to, and we didn't receive that. So I just want to clarify, did we actually run a deficit for that fiscal year?
Ran a deficit for the fiscal year as far as the intake, but as far as the war chest, the money is there. So there is money in the savings account. But as far as what's going on right now, due to the negotiation with the previous roundtable coordinator, wanting to change the contract and the duration of the negotiation period, it went all the way up to the end of the fiscal year. And so we did have it approved. The money is earmarked. And the invoice came in. We are processing it for payment. It should arrive any day now. So both 24, 25, 25, 26. 25, 26 will be in 2 payments. So they typically invoice at the first of the year and then mid-year, and that's when we pay.
Because I had concerns because like our total expenditures were $263,000 for that year, and our revenues were only $43,000, and then we used only about $6,000 of our, you transferred $6,000, so I was just trying to figure out the math in terms, did we use other from our funds in terms that covered the expenditures?
Oh, what was that, Vanessa? It would have been 600,000 roughly. And
Yeah, so I can answer that question. So I just want to confirm that we have received the payment, the retro payment from SFO for fiscal year 24-25. We've also received the half fiscal year portion of 25-26. So when I came on board, I worked really closely with Bert. We got the MOU executed. We got that. It went through the airport commission, and then the county of San Mateo approved that. We invoiced very quickly SFO, and we got the check fairly quickly after that. So the idea here is not to have kind of the gaps in fiscal year, but the Roundtable has a trust fund, which all of the money from the member agency, so you all pay a fee to the Roundtable as well as SFO, goes into a trust fund. This year, I worked to reconcile the budget a lot. I worked with the county to make sure that we had really accurate numbers for what our actual expenditures were versus what our revenue was. So there was some fiscal years where some of our staffing costs were delayed from the county, and so there was some borrowing from the trust fund that needed to happen during those times. So anytime we have extra money from the Roundtable, it goes right back into the trust fund, and that accumulates over years. And so there was a borrowing. It was only about $7,000 when the total of about 3 years of reconciliation happened. We won't have to do that this year. This year, Diane told me earlier that we got all of our member dues in, we have our SFO payments in, so this fiscal year, we have all of our revenue into the Roundtable. There are some expenses that might have some varying costs. We tried to estimate as best, but those are smaller expenditures or accruals. Kind of the website is one, so we'll be revamping the website. I know there's going to be a bump. Right now, we just pay to host the website, but we're going to have to do a little bit of design work on the website. And then potential cost increases to our video services. Those are contracted increases, so we have 3-year contracts with MCTV, which streams our video services. There's a really small, modest increase in that budget also. Otherwise, everything stays the same. I did negotiate, so staffing and kind of administrative function, so conference room rental, printing, all that stuff, is billed from the County of San Mateo to the Roundtable. And I worked this year to keep those costs the same so they didn't go up, which, you know, they're hoping, I think in the next couple of years with just cost of living increases, salary increases, those costs will increase. But we've done a 6-year projection for the budget, so the trust fund should carry us through with our current revenue. But there may be a time where we do need to go back to SFO and consider how we negotiate the MOU moving forward.
Okay. No, I appreciate it. I was a little concerned in terms of the finances as I read that, thinking that we had a $220,000 deficit, but it sounds like we're okay. So I appreciate it. Thank you for answering. So if there's no other question, I'll be happy to move that item.
That was an excellent question, Mark, an excellent answer. Thank you, Vanessa. Yes, Kaya.
I just want to thank Vanessa for working so hard on our behalf. It sounds like you really did yeoman's work on, and that's so important. And so I really appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Thank you. So there's a motion to approve the budget. Is there a second?
I'll second Terry O'Connell.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, great. Thank
Chair, we have one hand raised on Zoom. Do we want to take that?
Okay, yep, absolutely. We'll go back.
Carol, please go ahead.
This is Carol Ford, and I couldn't be there tonight because I'm still recovering from COVID, but I am on this group.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, great, thank you, and feel better, Carol.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to this chairman update. I'll start off my report by noting that the technical working group met earlier this evening, and again, thank you for everyone's time, to discuss a study the Roundtable will be advancing on emerging technologies focused on the advanced air mobility that we all expressed so much concern about at the last meeting, and air taxi operations. So in a minute, our TWG Chair, Terry O'Connell, will report out on that discussion, so the full roundtable knows what was discussed and planned for our next steps. And in tonight's meeting, we'll have an overview of SFO's noise insulation program, which Bert already referenced, which provides soundproofing and noise mitigation for eligible residential properties affected by aircraft operations. This presentation will cover program history and current progress and is aimed to help members better understand how the program supports community quality of life and complements broader noise reduction efforts. So do you have more to add then, Bert, on what you've already presented?
No, ma'am, I will not, but my colleague here, Luis Moreno, will be happy to.
Great. Okay, Luis, we will look forward to that. And we'll receive a presentation on the Fly Quiet program prepared by HMMH. We're looking forward to that, Glenn. This analysis examines how other major airports evaluate airline noise performance and the effectiveness of their incentive programs. And the findings will help inform future enhancements to our Fly Quiet program and guide discussions on best practices and accountability. And lastly, we are going to be working with the TWG on our 5-year strategic plan. So again, we actually had a great discussion today with those who attended, but anyone else is welcome to join the technical working group. So if you're interested, just reach out to me or Vanessa, and that wraps up my report. So we'll move on to our regular agenda. The first item on our regular agenda is our update item, which we've already heard. Right? We did those already. So they were on consent and they're on regular. Okay, so we did that twice. All right, so I think we will move to Terry to report out on TWG. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The technical working group met earlier this evening to discuss parameters for a study the Roundtable will be advancing on innovative noise mitigation and emerging air mobility technologies. The purpose of the study is to evaluate new and developing tools that may reduce aircraft noise or influence airspace use as advanced air mobility expands. The group reviewed proposed areas of research, including scanning available technologies, assessing community impacts, identifying private land and airspace implications, and developing a list of key stakeholders. We also introduced the idea of evaluation framework with guiding principles focused on community noise impacts, including safety and public health, environmental sustainability, and equality. The conversation included how these principles might be prioritized and whether any additional considerations should be added. As a next step, staff and the consultants will refine the draft framework for the technical working group review before bringing forward policy and advocacy recommendations to the full roundtable. I will say that it was a very open conversation about what the implications of advanced air mobility can be, and we would always love to have more people in on the conversation so that we can, on this and other things that are coming to the technical working group. But thank you very much for everyone for attending.
Thank you. All right. I realize that what I did is during consent agenda, item number 7, that is when we accept the airport director's written reports from July and August. So actually, pardon me, we have to go back and get a motion on that to accept item number 7, which is the airport director's report. Is there a motion to accept that report?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, and I got those confused with the live reports, which we've done. Now we will get to the noise insulation program overview. So we will turn things over to you, Louise.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Luis Moreno. I'm an SFO PM working under design and construction, and I've been overseeing the noise installation program for the last 6 years. I'm here to give you all a general program overview, hopefully get you excited about the work that we've been doing at SFO. The quick agenda, we'll go through a noise exposure map, general overview of what that is. Then we'll hit some historical background on what the noise program, where it originated from. We'll talk about our current initiatives and what we're doing right now. And then I'll just kind of recap with some key accomplishments. And then last but not least, we'd like to open it back to the floor for Q&A. Diving into the noise exposure map, this is a 2019 NEM noise exposure map adopted by the FAA in January 2016. This map is important because it sets the geographic eligibility representation of how we operate the noise installation program. So all 3 initiatives fall under this eligibility criteria, and what it pretty much outlines, the outermost line is the 65 decibel contour, noise contour line, which dictates that everything inside is eligible for the noise program. Just a general quick overview of the background of the program. It was implemented in the early 1980s, and to be exact, it was 1983. We were the first airport in the nation to implement such robust noise installation programs, so we're very proud of that, all with the goal to eliminate incompatible land uses. So we've actually done that. We met the incompatible land uses per Caltrans Title 21 through insulation improvements, genuine noise mitigation efforts, and just investing back into the community. Again, we're really proud of the program because this has been done at no cost to eligible property owners. And then diving a little bit more, just a general overview of our initiatives, and then I'll go one by one what they are and where they come from. We have 3 initiatives. We have our Second Chance Initiative, which was adopted in 2008. We have our Repair Replacement Initiative, which was enacted in 2018. And then our newest initiative, which is the Expanded Eligibility Initiative in 2022. So diving a little bit deeper into what are these initiatives, right? What is comprised of the noise installation program at SFO? Second Chance Initiative is pretty much a continuation of the original noise installation program. The original one that started in 1983 to 2002 when we met those compatible land uses. It was originally managed by the neighboring cities. SFO pretty much applied for grants and distributed funds. But in 2008, we decided to take back that ownership of the program in partnership and just for the giving back to the communities. We realized that there were a lot of properties that were not treated in the original program, so we decided to bring back the opportunity. And what this does, it was a continuation, so the same new doors, new windows, HVAC systems, partially funded by the FAA. And again, the requirements are listed, which is be in the contour map. The house must have been built before October 98. And there has to be an interior habitable room noise above 45 decibels. And by habitable room, it means kitchen, a living room, a bedroom, but not a garage. And then in exchange, the owner grants the airport a navigation easement, which gives us the right to fly it over their property. So that was the Second Chance. Our next initiative in chronological order is our Repair Replacement Initiative, which was implemented in 2018. And what this does, it repairs or replaces aging insulation components that were installed in previous phases of the NIP. Now, I want to highlight that this was out of SFO's funds. It has nothing to do with the FAA or partially funded programs that the FAA has. We realized that there were a lot of properties out there that were treated in the past, and due to the aging factors, these materials were no longer functioning the way they should. So there was a gap between what the FAA was funding and the homeowners that were saying, hey, I went through your program years ago and now it's failing, help. And so SFO stepped in. Initially we started with $1 million. We've since raised it to 1.5. But again, it is out of just partnership and caring about the noise mitigation efforts. So the eligibility requirements are still the same, have to be within the 65 decibel noise exposure map, has to have previously treated failed improvements, and then we do confirm eligibility on site after there's been an application if we've gone through the first steps. Moving on to our last and most recent initiative. This is our expanded eligibility initiative. So eventually the FAA picked up on, hey, we started this program back in 1983. There's probably a lot of properties out there that need to have some form of rework done. And so they piloted, and I'm saying pilot because they started with announcing it to a couple of airports, SFO being one of them. And again, we took the opportunity to partake in the expanded eligibility, which treats or re-insulates properties that were treated before 1993. It's the same thing. It's a continuation of the noise program with new doors, new windows, HVAC systems, again, partially funded by the FAA, and the eligibility requirements are the same as they are for Second Chance. Again, with the caveat that it has to be previously treated and the treatment had to be completed prior to 93. And I just want to run through some highlights of our key accomplishments. Again, we're really proud of being the first airport to implement such a robust installation program. In 2002, we met the Caltrans requirements of meeting and eliminating all incompatible land uses. And then from 2008 to 2018 to most recently 2022, we continue to expand the noise installation program, trying to mitigate the noise effort and the noise we're trying to abate noise and trying to give back to the communities. That has resulted in over 15,400 properties that have been treated and have gone through the noise installation program, with more than $30 million that have been invested back to the community. And $30 million figure is in today's dollars, today's budget. 300? Sorry, 300. 300. Thank you. And just diving a little bit deeper into the maps, this is again just a blow up of the noise exposure map. We overlaid two maps. There was a question that was asked about Pacifica if they were eligible, and at one point, when aircraft was louder, they were eligible for the noise treatment. So this map represents the 1983 noise exposure map. The original one is the purple outline that goes further out, with the red one being the most current 2019. And as you can see in this drawing, it has shrunk. Again, this is because we now have quieter aircraft and advanced technology, therefore limiting the noise in the community. And we're abiding by federal regulations. So again, we understand that there is a lot of commotion and that there are a lot of frustrated residents out there that would like to participate. And we take the calls, we talk to them, we see how we can work. But unfortunately, we have to abide by federal regulations in order to get funding. And so the best bet and what we've done is our repair replacement initiative. And if they're eligible, we put them through that path. This is again just another blow up of the Millbrae area, or a close up of what it was before and what it is now. But again, those highlighted, the blue areas are all the properties that have been treated to date. And again, a close up of the San Bruno treated properties. And just wrapping up a summary, this excludes the SFO funded initiative, so just the federal funded. I want to point out that, this kind of just shows the different period and how many properties we've treated. Again, the biggest leverage was done between 1983 and 2002 when this was the original program and we were trying to meet all those incompatible land uses. And then we continued from 2008 on to where we are right now. And we foresee to continue to provide sound insulation improvements to residents that are eligible for the program. We're still looking for how to be creative and get additional funding. But this recaps our total number of units that have been insulated and the total number, or the total budget, total cost. And I want to point out that it's not shown in this graph, but after an evaluation, SFO has actually funded more than 72% of the total cost. So although we're eligible for up to 80%, we've actually put in more than half the share, 72 as I mentioned. And then this is now a focus on our repair replacement summary or initiative of the summary. This is just showing where we started in 2018 and where we're headed. We foresee us every fiscal year, we receive $1.5 million to treat about 20 to 25 properties. Obviously, the cost of inflation and materials, and actually the quality of the products that we're installing in these properties have increased. Thus, the cost of how many of the products and how many homes we're able to get through. But we continue to proactively work and with the community and seek additional funding. I kind of blew through that because I know I only had 10 minutes, but if there's any questions, I'd love to answer.
Thank you, Lisa. It's been a couple of years since we last received an update on this, so this is very interesting. Before we open it up for member questions or comments, let's take public comment on this item.
Thank you, Chair. We have one on Zoom and also one from, now two actually. Ms. Schneider, please go ahead.
Thank you. I live at 406 Palm Avenue in Millbrae. Under the former FAA rules and the Stage 3 engines, this house qualified for insulation. That insulation was done around 1990. When I moved home in 2006, I had to gut the first floor rooms because the insulation was so bad, the windows were so bad, they were not caulked. They created dry rot and rotted out all of the framing in the first floor front of the house bedroom. And it had mold. It actually didn't just take away the framing, it took away the sheathing behind the stucco. I've since replaced all those windows upstairs and downstairs and replaced the entire room, rebuilt the entire room because of the damage of the insulation program that SFO did early on. We no longer qualify because the FAA does not count low frequency noise and the noise from planes sitting on the taxis and running using runway 1 or 28 for that matter. That sound doesn't get us into the contour. I noticed, so that is a long-term problem on that, and it is not alone in Millbrae that houses that are now outside the 65 contour have had significant structural damage due to early SFO insulation. That really should be looked at if you're going to be fair. Thousands and thousands of dollars. Changing of subject. Sorry, I lost my point. And really, I guess my question that's it. According to the staff report tonight, 58 homes in Millbrae now qualify. Where are those 58 homes? And I'm going to finish this as a former mayor of Millbrae. Right now, Millbrae is going out to bid to rebuild the SFO pump station that drains the Lameda Canal that cannot get to the bay because of SFO in 101. Why is Millbrae left holding the cost of SFO? Why are we having to pay for that? Why are Millbrae taxpayers paying for your gate that causes our neighborhoods to flood every year when you don't turn on the pumps? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mr. Tan. Mr. Tan, please go ahead.
Hello, Remy Tan, again, President of Pacifica. Kind of disappointed to see those maps in the presentation. Yes, I understand that the engines on the planes are gotten quieter, but unfortunately, the amount of flights have been a lot more frequent because the planes are, bigger, they're more fuel efficient, and the airlines are running more flights because they make more money on these new fuel efficient planes. So, we get a lower noise amount, but a lot more of it. And we still have the Pacifica Monitor number 19 that's on Bert's presentation for the noise. It shows a bunch of 75 and and higher dB ratings. So I'm questioning whether that 65 contour is accurate. Also note, I live near some of the houses that I've seen that have insulation, and they were outside even the 1983 contour. So I think there's perhaps a earlier contour that might have been used for some of the houses that were insulated, unless there was a different program. But like to see the FAA and SFO consider the frequency of the flights, as well as the accuracy of the map, because definitely I'm seeing other maps that show 75 plus dB. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. There are no other public comments.
Carol has her hand raised.
Oh.
Welcome, Carol. Oh, your volume's off.
Yep, thank you. I just wanted to make I liked the presentation. Thank you so much, Remy. I just wanted to make a small comment about, it's a point of clarification. Airplanes already have permission to fly over homes in the area. It's just, I think, maybe polite to ask for a navigation easement in return for the noise soundproofing, right?
Technically, yes, we do have the right to fly over, and it is a polite way of exchanging noise mitigation efforts for a formal agreement.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now open the floor. Yes, Christine.
I just thought it might be helpful to, given some of the public comments, to explain the CNEL, right? I mean, you'll explain it better than I do, but it's an average, right? So that we could have noise events that are higher in the 75s in Pacifica, but the FAA is really looking at average over the course of a day.
Yes, that is correct. I mean, there was a public comment that mentioned about how this map, the accuracy of the map, and I just want to say that SFO hires a consultant party that reviews the Federal Code of Regulations, Chapter 14, which is specific.
That it's shrunk down. And if you look at the map, the surrounding areas are in blue, but there is a portion that isn't. And what we found out is because they're condos. And what I found out is that through the RI program, condos are not eligible for this. They're only living in single family homes. But the area around that's blue, they're also condos. I guess I'm just a little confused in terms, and maybe this is more of a conversation offline, is the consistency of that. And that might be because now the line shrank down, that's the new policy, but I think that's the frustration that I hear from my residents is, oh, my neighbor got the insulation and they're a condo, but now I'm not eligible. And so just kind of maybe the consistency of that, I think, is something that I want to express that I'm hearing from my residents in terms of their frustration.
Thank you for expressing it. And yes, it is correct. The noise program currently focuses on single-family homes, but we will take your point and consider the fairness of that and the reasoning behind. We'll present it in a future presentation.
Yeah, because if you look at that map up in the Westboro area,
where it shows what the decibels are. So I understand it's an average, but I'm just going to give you a for instance. So Foster City, my city, has 12,853 instances where it's 55 and 12,796 where it's 65. So that to me is it's more than 50%, more than an average, but I don't see Foster City on that map. So I just am trying to reconcile that with the map.
My colleague Bert will answer that question.
I can help you with that one. So what you're looking at there is what we call an N above map, number above. And this is number of noise events that are above a certain decibel level that you're looking at. So you run down 60, let's say, and you can see what the count is. Very different from CNEL. CNEL is a community noise equivalent level. They take the decibel level, run it over a year's time, and it averages out with the non-events, let's say. And so in doing that, you could have let's take, for example, we had a 105 decibel aircraft noise event at night. That would drive your 65 decibel contour for the day. That would push it out all the way. Now, if you went to, I forget what the number is for 100 of them, it would knock it down to, I think, what was it, 70 about? Yeah, about 70 decibels. So each one of those aircraft over the day, 100 aircraft events, at 70, it's going to water it down, and it's going to be a 65 decibel noise contour as well. So that's where the real fun in decibel addition comes from. That's why we run a Noise 101. Happy to show you what we have there. It really is a very good explanation. In fact, Mr. Eugene Reindel is the gentleman that gives our noise metric section on that. And we also do one at the airport as well occasionally. So happy to help out.
Yes, Kaya.
Just a really quick question, generic perhaps.
Kaya, can we get a mic?
Here you go.
So thank you for the presentation. I learned a lot. And thank you for the questions. I learned even more. My question is just generic so San Francisco Airport was the first to institute a noise program in 1983, did you say? Do all the major airports of the size of San Francisco or larger in the United States now have a noise program? And when was the most recent one implemented?
For which I think there are like 30,000 homes within their 65. So yes, you should commend San Francisco for their efforts.
Thank you.
Terry.
So I just wanted to clarify, you said that San Francisco Airport has eliminated their incompatible land uses. But I just wanted to say that there are still many incompatible land uses within that 65 dB. And we, as people in control of those land uses, keep making the decision to override the regulations because we have to. And so we keep adding more incompatible land uses to our neighborhoods every day when we do that. And I just wanted to say that while it sounds really good that we've eliminated all those incompatible land uses, we have not. And that's something that goes above and beyond our ability as jurisdictions, goes clear up to the state and goes up to the federal level. So it's something to be aware of, and we are still building incompatible things in that 65 dB.
A good point.
Well, I can say that we do run the residentials in particular. We check those from the San Mateo County Assessor's Office, and we put those into our program to look for those. So we are looking. We try to catch them where we can. Now, keep in mind that homes built after a certain date, which was 1998, we have them as compatible, mainly because of the efficiency on the environmental within these homes. They would qualify anyway, most of them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? Thank you very much for that presentation. Yes. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. I did have some questions. So you're saying that the repair and replace initiative is going to have 1.5 million that's budgeted for the next 5 year, no, yeah, 5-ish for 4 years. That's coming from SFO, correct?
That is correct.
And then if I look at the repair and replace initiatives, it says that there's 3,000, I'm trying to find the page here, 3,000 eligible homes. I can't find where it was. I'm just curious about how you decide which person gets, if you're only going to be repairing 20 homes a year, that doesn't eat too much into that, what I thought was 3,000 eligible. I'm not sure where the number was. Oh yeah, here. So repair and replace, yeah, page 31 of one of the presentations. So it says 3575 potentially eligible properties. you've received 1,000 applications, and you're saying that you're only going to do 20 of them a year, so we're going to make it to about 100 so 10% of the homes that have actually applied, 3% of the total eligible homes. So how exactly do you decide, just based on who put their application in first, or?
Yes, it is a first come, first serve. We think that's the most fair approach. And I hear the concern as far as, hey, you're not getting through as many, and there's a lot of homeowners and homes out there that need this type of service. We have done our best to increase our budget. Also, the pilot program, understanding how we can be more efficient. But ultimately, we realize that our best bet is through the federally funded initiatives. And so through, as an example, the expanded eligibility, we were able to secure $9.6 million from the federal administration. And what we did is we grabbed those RRI properties and transferred them over to give them a more robust treatment package. Now, unfortunately, you know, the budget is what it is, but we can say that the airport director has agreed to a 1.5 every fiscal year, and we understand it's a long process, but we're doing our best in that sense.
So I'm a little confused now, a little more. You said you pulled some of the people out of the repair and replace and stuck them over in expanded eligibility to get to access some of the FAA funding. But when I look at totally potential eligible properties, it's only 530 under expanded eligibility. So there aren't that many that are getting pulled over, I guess.
Well, unfortunately, it's the eligibility criteria of the properties that had to be insulated prior to 93. And so only about 500 of those within the RRI made it to that batch. We are hoping that the FAA, through this pilot of pre-93, they continue the service of these properties that were treated in previous phases. So pre-93 being the first round, and hopefully there is a pre-94, there's a pre-95, and hopefully the idea is that we get all of these properties that are currently in RRI treated that way. But so far we haven't seen much action on the federal side.
So when you go and put in new windows in a house, I take it you pull a permit with the municipality, and the municipality comes out and actually does an inspection of the window installation? Is that the way it works?
Yes, we pull permit and we have to get an inspection.
So I don't really understand how all these windows ended up being installed, however many that is, 50 years ago, and many of them are failing now. Were they just not, the technology was so poorly done, or they've just gotten so old that?
And that's a great question. Actually, the reason why the FAA started with a 93 number, pre-93, is because if we look at the initiation of the program, which was 1983, 93 is 1983. 40 years, which is an average lifespan of a door and window. So it is a given fact that these pieces will start failing, and thus kind of the pilot of the pre-93 program.
And I guess what I wanted to also understand is some people are actually remodeling their homes, correct, on their own? And are there standards in those municipalities that are right around SFO that have increased requirements for higher quality windows, you know, passive house installation requirements, for example, where you're really air sealing them and properly so that they will last longer and they will actually provide soundproofing, even triple pane glass? I mean, much more expensive, but I don't know. Are municipalities also, is SFO working with some of the municipalities to make sure that any home that's being remodeled actually has a higher standard that needs to be met? So
in a way, we, by putting a noise program and by having this data available to the public, we are addressing the fact that there are these incompatible, or this noise, the noise is impacting these properties. And so there is the reason why the October 98 date is an eligibility criteria for our second chance and for the FAA is because after that, it is a known fact that these airplanes are flying, that there is noise, and that these properties are being exposed. And so it goes back to the responsibility of builders and homeowners to maintain their property. So under those premises, that is why we are, I'm not going to say exempt, but they're not eligible for the noise program. It's kind of a given that the data is out there, it's proven that there is noise, and builders should be responsible to put in the proper mitigation during construction.
Right, but it definitely adds an extra expense when you go for a triple pane window versus a double pane. So I just wondered if SFO shouldn't kind of consider in the future expanding the program to be able to give maybe smaller grants to allow people to upgrade to a little higher standard, if you will, just to reduce the problems in 50 years from today, you know, when you're having to replace windows that aren't working. And I guess my last question is really, a lot of this money is dependent on the FAA, and what kind of commitment do you have that they will actually pay it?
That they will pay it?
Yes, for upcoming year, future years, yes.
Yeah, we usually apply for grants in December, and so we get usually grants come in around May. And if it's a given fact, if there is we submit a formal application and we have a communication with our local airport FAA office, if the money has been authorized, we get it and we expend it, and we do our best to spend every single penny. And actually in the latest initiatives, we've been more proactive at not returning federal money back and trying to just bring it back to the communities. So once it is earmarked, then it is given to SFO, and we do our due diligence to spend it and put it back in the community.
And,
Thank you.
do you have a second plan in the fact that when all the money is cut off and the FAA, you know, the federal government decides no longer to fund these programs?
And that's a great question. Thank you for bringing it up. We actually in 2024, 2025 did not receive federal funding for the noise program. And I want to highlight that SFO still continued with the commitment by putting their own money. We actually put in $12.5 million this last fiscal year, even though zero came from federal funding. So we are doing our best to keep up with the demand. We continue to push on the federal side to cooperate and help us mitigate. So I think that's a highlight of SFO's commitment to the noise program.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you to the board for the comments. Thank you, Bert and Luis, for that presentation. And now we are going to, yes, Stephen.
Just one quick question for clarification, looking through the report here. I'm looking at the EEI underneath page 36, and the diagram shows that Millbrae has 58 eligible homes. And my question where I need clarification on is if I scroll down to, is it slide 48, where it shows treated properties, are those homes in blue the 58 that you're referencing, or where are those 58 homes within Millbrae that are potentially eligible for the EEI?
So, and I'm sorry, because I don't have what you're seeing, and it's not numbered on my side, but the potentially eligible properties that we've listed are in a queue. So they are waiting to be treated. And as we mentioned, we go on a first come, first served basis. So as funding becomes available, we push the properties up the queue. But unfortunately, those properties might lie in Millbrae or South San Francisco, and we are just treating them as they come. So those 58 are technically in the queue for one of our programs.
Sure, got that. But the homes that are in the queue, these are folks that have already pre-registered and did it a while back. That's how they landed in the queue?
They could, yes. So these are, so actually specific to EEI, these are properties that were treated prior to 1993. And so they are in the queue, they are waiting for their sound insulation. I don't know if I answered your question.
I think I get what you're saying. You did. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. So we'll go to our final regular agenda item, which is a presentation on the Fly Quiet program comparison, a peer review report. So Gene Reindel, I'll pass things over to you.
Thank you. So one of the work items for the roundtable is to work with the airport to try to improve or modernize or revamp, if you will, their Fly Quiet program. And so one of the things that I was asked to do was to see how San Francisco's program compares to other airports' programs and look at what other airports are doing for their fly quiet programs. And all this is not to say these are the only things you can do. This is really meant to be, start to plant ideas in your all's heads so that we can, when we go to revamp the fly quiet program here at the airport, that you have these other ideas in mind and kind of start thinking outside the box a little bit as well. So we looked at 5 other airports, Seattle, Chicago, Fort Lauderdale, Boston, and even one over in London and the Heathrow Airport. So this, you're right. Nope, stay there. Go. Yeah, so first though, we should remember what San Francisco's program is. There are 6 categories for a fly quiet program, and those are to help influence airlines to operate as quietly as possible in the San Francisco Bay Area, reduce both single event and total noise levels around the airport. So they look at fleet noise quality. How quiet is the fleet that each of the operators operate? They have at SFO, you have a noise exceedance rating. And if how many times do you exceed that level when you're departing? They have a nighttime preferential runway use, shoreline departure quality rating, gap departure quality rating, and the Foster City arrival quality rating. So those are the items that you currently have at the San Francisco airport. So now looking at, go next one, for Seattle. So they have some unique categories as compared to San Francisco are the engine run-up rules. So engine run-ups are run-ups that occur with maintenance of aircraft. And so they have a scoring category for airline compliance with airport ground engine maintenance run-up rules. They also have a late night noise exceedance, so similar to the noise exceedance at SFO, but this is really looking at nighttime only between the hours of midnight and 5 a.m. And one thing unique with Seattle is that they actually have a voluntary limitation on the use of thrust reverse upon landing. So when you land an aircraft, rather than just using the brakes on the wheels, you actually reverse the engines, and it causes the aircraft to slow down, but that also causes noise. And Seattle has built a 3rd parallel runway that is closer to the community. And so as one of the mitigation options, they actually have asked the operators to, at night, started out at night, to not use thrust reverse on landing. And they are trying to now take that to 24 hours a day. And of course, it's not of course, but to me it's kind of course, but you can only do this when you land on dry pavement. Because if the pavement's wet, you can't slam on the brakes to slow the plane down, because the same thing happens as if you slammed on your brakes in a car, you're gonna go sliding. And so it has to only be when the pavement's dry. And if you look at comparison to San Francisco, they have some things that are like that: compliance with existing noise abatement flight procedures, something like your shoreline and gap departures here, and overall fleet noise qualities in there as well. Next slide. So now looking at Chicago O'Hare, they actually look at airline schedules. So I know one of the things that have come up here in recent months as we've been meeting is time of day that airlines operate. We even heard it today from some of the community is like, can they operate during the day rather than at night? And so one of the things that Chicago looks at is actually the airline schedules and how they comply with certain noise sensitive time periods. They also have ground run-ups, similar to Seattle, about using their ground run-up enclosure. They use detailed flight track reporting, and they go beyond a simple adherence score. It gets really more granular into how well they're actually flying the path that the noise abatement procedure would have them fly. And then they also have a voluntary program that alternates nighttime runways. It's a very unique program they have. You couldn't really do that here. But there they have runways that operate in various directions, and what they do is they rotate around what neighborhoods they're going to fly over in a particular week at night, and then they rotate that around. Some of the things that are in comparison to SFO is preferential flight tracks, fleet quality index, and nighttime preferential runway use category there as well. Turning to Boston Logan International Airport, some of the unique categories is they have specific runway restrictions, which apply runway-specific decibel ratings based on what runway they use. Because at Boston Logan, sometimes the pilot will ask for a specific runway, and so when they do that and it's not using one of their noise abatement runways that they would prefer, then you get dinged on that. Again, something probably you couldn't do here. Pilot compliance highlights metrics such as runway use and flight paths adherence again. Towing requirements. Rather than using aircraft power to move around the airfield, they actually ask that they be towed as much as possible so that you can reduce the amount of time that the engines are actually on causing noise on the airfield. And like San Francisco, their flight quiet program does focus on adherence with flight paths. In Boston has a specific metric called the cumulative noise index, which is a very complicated number to try to figure out what it means, but it's based on what the certification noise level is of the aircraft. So it's like a fleet mix noise quality index. Fort Lauderdale International Airport, they actually have quite a different program. They don't have the categories of rating necessarily how well or poor the airlines are doing, but it's more for them about reporting the data to the airlines, letting them know about the high noise event reporting that they do, and they use flight track density plots to make sure that overall the operators are operating in the paths that they would like them to. The FLO program is voluntary and really focuses on data reporting. Now on to London Heathrow. They have some unique items here, like a noise quota count seat movement. So really sophisticated looking at, they collect data that most airlines in the US will not give you, such as how many passengers are there, what's the weight of the aircraft on takeoff, and all these things that you can actually then put into a rating program like this. One of the things that they really focus on a lot is a continuous descent approach. What that means is that the aircraft is not doing a stair step where you come down, apply power, level fly for a little bit, come down a little bit more, apply power again. And the idea is that if you're just coming down at a continual descent, you're at lower power settings most of the way down. And that's really important to them, and so they do track when aircraft are on a continuous slope versus a stair-step approach. Nighttime operations penalize early arrivals to reduce their noise. So arrivals before 4:30 in the morning are really dinged on their fly quiet program. And then they do have fines for infringements. Of course, in the U.S., that is not allowed based on current regulation in the U.S. So this slide is mostly just for you all to have as a comparison to start thinking about. I'm not going to repeat it. I mean, these were the highlights of what I just said for each of the 5 that we looked at. A couple things that aren't in here, programs that I've been involved with helping put together recently. One is at LAX. They chose to actually put in it's like an engagement bonus point system, and that is trying to get the airlines to come to their roundtable meetings, essentially, and their technical working group meetings, because trying to get them there because they can actually provide a lot of benefit in being there. And so they have put in a bonus point system to where if you come to a certain number of meetings or whatever, you get bonus points. And it actually has helped bring not only the airlines to the roundtable meetings, but also one of the airlines is sitting on the technical working group as a member. And so it really, something like that is also has proven to be beneficial. And none of these programs we highlighted here because it's really new. It's just something that only a couple have put into their programs. I think John Wayne has done it and LAX has done it. And with that, I'll also leave you with the references so that you can go and click on these yourself. But really, you can also Google Fly Quiet programs, and there's probably about 20 more that you could look at. We tried to pick ones that were similar in size and nature to San Francisco International Airport. So I hope you find this a benefit. It's really meant to really get you to start thinking about how we might change the Fly Quiet program here at San Francisco to really get to what it is you're trying to improve in your communities.
Thank you, Gene. Are there some comments or questions? Yes, Paul.
Yeah, I do. Thanks for the presentation, Gene. So for me, this is maybe the most important thing we do. This group is here we're concerned with noise in our community. And to me, the Fly Quiet programs almost seem like a hobby. They're kind of like they're voluntary. They're based on recognition. We give people a banner, we give them points, we say, hey, nice job. And yet, all the complaints in here are about, we don't want to insulate houses, we don't want noise, so we don't have to insulate houses. And so to me, this is a really big deal, and I think that, I like the Fly Quiet programs, don't get me wrong, but I just think that I'm not sure they're serious enough. And a couple of the things that I think we may want to, if this was successful, we might not even be needed. I mean, if we could achieve the quietude that we're all seeking here. This is what it's all about. This is the key element. But the point that I wanted to make was, one, we shouldn't be grading their performance on a curve. It's an absolute number. And so it's just because you're the best airline at SFO, you may stink. And I think that we need to know what the numbers are in absolute terms, and just based on decibels or whatever, they're very, as Bert said, they're very confusing how to figure these things out, and I think there's probably two people in the room who really understand them thoroughly, and they're you two guys. But I think that, let's figure out what these numbers are and do it. And we had a successful story 6 months ago with one airline who I remember took that night, you gave them some special dispensation. We need more of that, but I think that, we can really have an impact here. I'm not sure you mentioned it may have been in a different presentation, but I'm aware of a new technology. I think it was Teterboro or John Wayne, I'm not sure who was using it, that specifically, and it was automated, specifically identifies flights, the specific flight that is a violator, that is exceeding noise levels, and it contacted them automatically. So it told that particular airline that flight numbers deal, and it would solve so many issues for us. And again, I think it's kind of like a hobby. We give people gold stars for doing something, and it's like I think there needs to be more enforcement, and I recognize the issues that the FAA kind of overrides all this stuff, and kind of they can do what they want to do, and we're just waving our hands and hoping that they'll listen to us. But anyway, thank you for the presentation.
Couple points from my perspective is that one, San Francisco was one of the first to do a Fly Quiet program, and when they set out to do this, it actually was very beneficial. I mean, all the airlines were paying attention to it. They were coming to Bert regularly asking, how do we improve our score? What do we need to do? What should I be paying attention to? And it really worked. And I think, just like anything, you need to revamp it. You need to get back to that. You need to get that energy back, right? Because I think if you ask the airlines today, they'd be like, yeah, we did all that. We went and talked to Bert. We're doing, all the things that we're supposed to be doing. Well, like you said, it's still not solving your problem. So let's take a look at it. What can we be doing differently in a Fly Quiet program to get the airlines to take notice again? Like I said, at LAX, when we put in that engagement piece, it was amazing how many came out, because they really do want to do things that is in their control to improve the quality of life around airports. They really do. So.
And one final point, sorry to take so much time, Madam Chair, but it's very focused on airline take departures, and not so much on arrivals or, before Ann Schneider says it,
Change that.
ground-based noise.
Right. We can change that, so.
Yeah, and I think that those need to be somehow accommodated in that too, for that, because, I mean, there's mechanics out there revving up engines and, you know, as you pointed, and they what is it, ground rev up or something they call it?
Ground run up and ground run ups, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and those things are really bother a lot of people, and those, you know, while we may all think it's going great, we still have members of the public coming here every meeting complaining that it's keeping them up all night, and it's bothersome. So anyway, thank you for your efforts. I think we can do better.
Thank you, Paul. Any other comments before? Yes, Terry.
So the program at London Heathrow, Continuous Descent Approach, is that similar to the concept of what GBAS might be?
No, not necessarily. I think GBAS can help get you there. It's a tool to what procedures you fly and helping you arrive to an airport. That's certainly a thing. It's a tool versus continuous descent approach is actually just something you do in the cockpit itself, is in just flying and it's also requires the FAA to let loose of the aircraft, like 10 miles out, because it's usually the FAA that's saying descend to 3,000 feet and maintain, right? The pilot, they're going to want to just come right in. So there's a balance there of who's actually responsible for it. So GBAS can help with CDA, but CDA is not necessarily GBAS.
Okay. And then another question or a comment is it possible for SFO to get the information about requests to vector? Because so much of our noise is due to vectoring, and some of that is done by air traffic controllers saying, we want them out of the way. But a lot of it is done late at night when the pilot will ask for permission, and we talked about this at one of our technical working groups meetings a year or so ago, where it's a given that if a pilot asks to vector and turn early, they're pretty much given it unless there's a reason not to. And if we can get that information, we can work that into our Fly Quiet program. Exactly. Where we're asking for the amount of pilot request vectors.
Right. And
might be one way to incentivize the good flying habits that we may not really be able to control, but it's something that we might be able to incentivize.
I think you're exactly right. So for instance, if we were to say, look, you left the procedure that goes over the peninsula at night and you asked for a vector, or you were given a vector, therefore you got a lower rating, if the pilot comes to Bert again and says, how can I do better? Well, this is what you're really doing. Stop asking for the vector, or even if they give you the vector, it's like, but we're supposed to not take these, give the pilot some incentive not to do that. The other one that we're working on with the TWG is the offset approach onto the 2.8, right? Mm-hmm. We could incentivize that, put that into, because I don't think a lot of the pilots necessarily know that that's available. United, I think, was the one that designed the approach, and so they know it's there, and they probably do it more than others. But just getting the word out, and that's one of the things these Fly Quiet programs can do, is get the word out that, look, if you're arriving late at night, you're the only one coming in, asked to go 28 right and asked to be on the offset.
Absolutely. This is, Paul's right. This is the crux of what we're doing. So I think for that reason, we should bring this back in December and ask Eugene, because this is a great comparison, what specific things should we be doing now to bring back the incentives and to make this program, to revitalize it again. So let's go to Patrick and Rebecca, and then in interest of time, we're going to wrap up for tonight, but we'll bring this back again in December. Go ahead, Patrick.
So I was just thinking, as a group here in the bonus point meeting,
use a microphone.
You can turn. So I was just thinking, as a group here, I like that bonus point, meaning where we can actually get some of the, airlines here or some of the representatives here and actually listen to what we're trying to do and get the whole idea. I really like that idea. And then the other thing would be if we can, I understand the pilot and command thing, and I get that because they can do whatever they really want if they feel that. But if they really understand, if we can get the message to the pilots, this is disrupting our neighborhood. So I don't know between this room and SFO what's being said and what's being done. So somehow, some way, convey that message, and basically the bonus thing. And congratulations, you guys are now the quietest airline out there. Find out who's the most noisiest, if you would, but also to be able to, as a group here, maybe pick, because I'm seeing Foster City, Portola Valley, Palo Alto, and Los Altos, which are basically on the approach side, if I'm not mistaken. If we can focus on that approach side and those 4 cities, if you would, and to try to make a difference, that we can see the numbers here on our stats. So that would energize us as board members to actually start seeing something and start seeing some changes. I don't have the answers, but I just think it'd be good to start seeing some numbers that change. We hear it over and over and over, people coming in and calling, and it changes. It seems to change with the winds, and it seems to change with the way that departures are and the approaches are. Then all of a sudden you start hearing everybody from South City, and then everybody from Millbrae and San Bruno. So we're kind of catching that, and we're noticing it because we have the data that shows there was a shift. And on the departures, if we could focus on Millbrae and San Bruno, because I keep hearing Millbrae and San Bruno, and then you hear South City. So focus on that if we could and start seeing the numbers and make a change, an actual physical change if we could, and to have the representatives from the airport here, I think is a great idea.
Thank you. Yeah, and last comment from Rebecca before we'll have to adjourn for the evening in the interest of time. And I did just want to add to what Patrick said. I think the crux of this is just letting every pilot and every airline know that we're watching. We're watching. Somebody's paying attention. Rebecca.
Yeah, I kind of had a question trying to understand how flight pathways are actually determined, because I've been following pretty closely lately because I've been trying out Bert's new app and comparing it to the noise app, and I've also been comparing it to the flight. I have an app called Flight Aware that is really good. And today I logged 17 reports. I work from home, and every time a plane comes over my head, it's under 6,000 feet. It disrupts what I'm doing. So it's irritating. So I'm just trying to understand. I'm in Portola Valley. And, we can see the number of reports. When I look at all this information that's gathered together, there's never any kind of suggestions for flight pathways away from San Francisco that are further away, like where we are. So when I look at flight pathways, I've been noticing it's gotten much, much worse, the noise, over the past few months. I've been noticing that there's been a lot of, I guess it's the FAA or the people in the air traffic people tell the pilot to slow down their approach or something. So what they're coming from the south, they do a kind of an S curve, and they do an S curve instead of going right up to the bottom of the bay and then shooting down the bay to get to SFO. They do an S curve over Portola Valley, Woodside, and then over Palo Alto, and then they do the curve onto the bay. So that's where all the noise gets concentrated, which otherwise it wouldn't. And then I'm even noticing today 2 flights came from Vancouver, so they're coming from the north. They came down the peninsula. They didn't come down the ocean. They came down the peninsula, and then they did a 180 over the top of my house at 5,000 feet, and then they went over Palo Alto, and then they went back up the bay. So I don't understand how they determine how the flight paths get determined. I know they're balancing where the departures, and then they're balancing Oakland, and they're balancing San Jose, but I don't understand. So I guess I'm trying to see why we're not also considering flight paths, because that has a huge impact on noise for some of the further away communities.
Well, for the purposes of a fly quiet program, you would want to have an alternate, right? And so you're saying rather than fly this procedure, fly that procedure. And I don't know that we have that at this point. It's not to say we couldn't come up with something, but also to put a new flight procedure in is very it's at least 5 years out, I would say right now. If you came up with a new flight procedure and you wanted it implemented, you're probably at least 3, if not 5 years out from putting it in. And so the FAA have these prescribed flight paths. You've heard about vectoring. Sometimes they will vector them off. There's several reasons why they do that. And it's mostly for the safe efficiency of the navigation system to make sure that, you know, the planes don't collide, that they, you know, aren't in the way of other planes and things like that. So many reasons that they do it, but they have prescribed flight paths. I think we've shown here several times, you know, flight track density plots to really show you where the majority of the flights are occurring. But one of the things we are looking at in the technical working group that Terry mentioned earlier is that they do get vectored off that path, and at night we're asking them, don't ever do that. And we were working with the FAA at the time a few months ago, and we were starting to get some progress, and we need to get that progress back. But flight paths are already determined, but yes, they may take them off of them once in a while due to, you know, safe navigation.
But we had a period that was quite quiet for a while, maybe 6 months ago, like I think Paul said, and then lately, for the past few months, it's been pretty much unbearable. They've been all coming right over us at a very low altitude. So this is my other question is, when you look at this, I love this idea of the continuous descent. So to me, there's a couple of issues there is, as the planes can only do this continuous descent if they have a straight path to the airport and there's no plane right in front of them that's moving at a slightly different pace. And so they have to be every plane has to be on the same, you know, descent into the airport. So if there's a lot of clogging of too many airplanes arriving at the same time, then obviously they're going to be all kind of doing these S-curves to slow them down. And then by the time they get to the bay, it's too clogged up. So to me, SFO could make a bigger effort of making sure that the times between each landing is a little bit better managed somehow. I don't know if there's software that would allow you to do that, but that seems to be a way to make it possible to do this continuous.
It's not SFO, that would be the air traffic controllers, and they do have plenty of tools in their toolbox to what you're...
About flying an aircraft, but I have been following and I see that planes can take off from SFO, they can make a 180-degree turn immediately past the airport in their space, and they can achieve, you know, maybe 12,000 or higher right as they come back past SFO, and then they start going down to wherever they're going. So they've achieved in a tiny amount of space an enormous ascent. Why can't they do the same in a descent? So why can't they come over the peninsula at above 8,000? They get to the bay, the bottom of the bay at 8,000 feet, and then they start to descend this continuous descent, you know, over the course of the entire bay to get down to the airport. Is that not possible, that sort of thing?
It's all speed control on arrival, and no, that would be like going from 200 miles an hour to 0 in like 5 seconds. I don't think you'd want to be on that plane that did that. So it's really all about speed control, and that's really all they're doing on arrival is speed control.
But there is certain height that we want them to be. So let's, the next meeting, we're going to put this closer to the top of the meeting so that we can spend more time on this issue. And Jean and Bert, if you can come back with how we need to update or tweak our current or fly quiet criteria, but what we need to do to rejuvenate the program. And I think there's two streams here, so the things that we actually have control over, and then the things that we need to work on with the FAA on. But if you could bring that back, that would be great. So just a couple of notes before we adjourn. It is hard to see the screens way up there, and if you don't want to use paper, you can bring your laptop or your iPad, and you can just you can just log on to the Zoom, and you'll see your presentation right there. Our next meeting is December 3rd at 7 o'clock, technical working group at 6 o'clock. All are welcome. And there are cookies at both tables, so help yourself for the road. And thank you very much. If there are any more, yes?
Technical working group is at 5:45.
Oh, thank you, Terry. 5:45, you're right, on December 3rd. Any other pressing comments? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Time is 8:47 p.m.